Today's the 4th of July, 2022. Make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel, like my official YouTube videos, go to my website, www.susanmuling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. So, today is Independence Day. And I figured some math out. So I'm going to put, it's not arithmetic math, it's math. It's a different type of math. So I'm going to put the link to what inspired this particular official YouTube video of mine in the information section. So, without the United States of America, a whole bunch of stuff wouldn't be allowed. And that includes little titty baby temper tantrums when it comes to biological adults. As far as, when you go and do stuff. So in the year of 2004 into the year 2005, I had found out the terminology for what is supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle. And my hairstyle was much longer, and my hair color was what grows out of my head in comparison to what I consider my natural hair color. Especially with those gender studies types. So in the year of 2004 into 2005, I had went to different classes and demos and different events, very seldomly at that time. And that was mainly in San Antonio. It was around the beginning-ish start, the first however many years of Temple of Flesh in San Antonio. And, I didn't have tattoos back then. And so I usually showed up in a little black dress and some heels, some nails, whatever, painted my nails. That was about it. Nothing really major. And, I paid attention to the classes and I did extra studies because I didn't want to make the mistakes from what I remembered from where I was born and raised, which is New Jersey, and then the New York City, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia areas, more specifically because of the situations in the mid to late 1980s and into the 1990s as far as the epidemic. And because I lost so many people that were family to me in a different capacity as to what is now known as the LGBTQP community, though it was just the gay community back then. It wasn't, all of these different acronyms acronyms or letters. It was just the gay community. And so, yes, they had their different areas and sections, but it was just, the people back then, it was just, they were gay. And that was it. They were happy, because that's the actual meaning of gay. And so, yes, while there were these different sectors and sections and so on and so forth, yes, they had to fight for their rights, but they still had rights to be allowed to fight for. Because they couldn't fight for the rights in the gay community to become the LGBTQP alphabet soup community in regards to if there wasn't the constitutional rights of the United States of America to begin with. So, fast forward to the year of 2009, where I earned my 26 scuba diving certifications. And at the Vandenberg, there were several reasons why I went to go handle what I went to go handle. There was a lot, but one of my favorite pictures in regards to, when I had the time to take pictures because of what I had to take care of, was the pictures of the American flag on the mast of the Vandenberg. Those are and seeing that in person, so let me give a little bit of a pretense on that. So I handled what I handled, and it was as it was, and I surfaced-ish, for what you consider as to where the keel of the ship was at. And there was a little bit more that I had to handle, and then, where's my scuba dive, whatever, as far as that's concerned, is what it is. And then as I finish handling a few other things, as I'm surfacing, I see the American flag starting to wave. Now, when I descended and I dropped down, the American flag was just straight up and down as far as that was concerned, even though the current was as it was in the area. However, as I was surfacing or ascending after my descent and all of the stuff that I had to take care of as I was ascending, and yes, okay, who I call Bobo, which is a much cuter name, but whatever, started whatever as far as that's concerned, and the American flag started raising. Had a few little other whatevers, and it was as it was, but there's nothing that replaces the sight of that in person. Face-to-face in person. The closest you can get is in Tacoma, Washington, which is one example because of how big that American flag is. At the irony of irony, Tacoma screw. Because this is where I'm going with that. And so, but not necessarily, it's a different reference, I'm getting to that. And so, as the American flag in comparison, so if you were to stand on a hill and then kind of look like this at the American flag waving, that'd be the closest you'd have to the viewpoint when I was surfacing. And because I can actually see in the water, I can actually see the colors. So while whatever the depth number as far as atmospheric measurements, so on and so forth, I could actually see the little bits of the red in the water. And it was as it was, and it's just one of those, yeah. I did my civic duty to, it's all right. People on land are going to be safe because of me tonight. All right. It's all right, it's okay. Whether you call me Susan B. Ling or Lady Dory Bell, I went and saved the day. It's all right. Make the joke. And so, went and handled stuff, and then situations went their way, they went, and the uniform fetish ball as far as 2009 and that. So I decided I was gonna take my stand and be all whatever. Now, mind you, from 2009 into 2010, in the DFW area, I had already been going on about the constitutional rights, these situations as to where I was born and raised, my people, from the aspects as to where I was born and raised. And those who had survived, I was concerned about my people as far as that aspect. The connections to the families, I was concerned about my people. You know, they may not have realized or whatever, but it is what it is. And then with everything that was going on in reference to McCoy Elementary School, Carrollton, Texas, Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, it was one of those, these are my people. You know, you have the nerve to utilize these political aspects in comparison, you know, as far as the situations, and as they had the nerve to go and have their attitudes about the fact that I'm medically retired from the Army, those biological females were allowed to have that attitude because of me signing the dotted line, along with all of the others, obviously. They were allowed to have employment as females, biologically, because of the advances from the United States of America. You would think that as many biological females as there are who have been allowed to go to college, not just allowed to go to college, allowed to go to school in general, back in the early centuries of the formation of the United States of America, there were not many females biologically that were allowed to even read a book, let alone get educated. When the first schools within the first 13 colonies began, people had to actually fight to be allowing their daughters to go to school. So for those types of individuals of any state of the United States of America with as many military installations as there are, as many active duty National Guard reservist veterans, dependents as to that, I could not believe that in any capacity there were those types of people in the state of Texas. As big as their flags, as many whatever as far as that's concerned, and how many veteran discounts or military discounts and so on and so forth in comparison. These females, biologically, you wouldn't be allowed to have a job. You wouldn't even be allowed to go to school if it wasn't for the formation of the United States of America. You wouldn't be allowed to not only go to school in reference to elementary school, you wouldn't be allowed to go to whatever middle school, you wouldn't have been allowed to go to whatever high school, and you wouldn't have been allowed to go to college. You wouldn't have been allowed to have an actual job because back in the original formation of the country before females were actually fought for regarding women's rights, you were not allowed to speak unless you happened to be in a family that was actually predominant, and you still had your role. And if you did not maintain your role, well, then you were not of any use. And you'd only be in use for one aspect in comparison to a multitude of. Nobody cared about your opinion because you didn't have any rights. And so it really was confusing to me regarding in the DFW area as many females who were allowed to work and allowed to do these different things, because that the stuff that I dealt with, that was fully against the formation of the United States of America. That was actually part of the reasons why females actually weren't allowed in certain references, because they had been known to stir up needless drama. They didn't have any value for that. There were enough males who were good enough at stirring up needless drama. They didn't need the addition of a biological female doing so. And so while certain biological females may have thought of themselves more worthwhile, well, that's only because of whatever family they were a part of, and then usually what happened after they did certain things will go on. We'll find someone more appealing physically than you. You can go wherever you know, and so people actually fought for the rights for biological females to attend school. They actually had to fight for it. It's called the women's rights movement, not just voting, the actualities of, to actually have biological females allowed to be educated. That was the actualities of. And so in the DFW area, it was very confusing as to how any of these people could actually be the way they were, especially whether you take in reference to my medical retirement, whether in reference to, especially in regards of my scuba diving work, but then also in regards to their opinions as to how I physically look. I didn't give a damn about their opinions. If I gave a damn about somebody's opinions, I would ask what your opinion is. But since I didn't ever ask anybody's opinion, and they had these feelings that they felt they needed to tell me their opinion. They had these feelings. That's what they would tell me at these different munches and different events. I have this feeling that I need to tell you, like I gave a damn. Literally, this is how this would go. I have this feeling that I need to tell you. I have this feeling. So there was a mask that was not a mask that I took a picture in. I didn't really care about their feelings. Then or now or before then. I didn't care about the feelings. Because they were allowed to have their feelings known because of. This is how it goes. This is because of. And so people in other countries who, which I made attempts to explain, not that I've ever been to other countries, I've studied, I've actually read and all that, and so I've been appreciative that I could actually be educated, from a very early age. So that's where, especially with such as my cousin Jade, as far as that, my cousin Catherine, I would read to my cousin Catherine when she was a child, when she was an infant, I would actually read to her what I would do in regards of my son and my daughter as they were children. I did that with my cousin Catherine. And so it was just something that I naturally did. And so, I did that in the nursery at Old Tennant Presbyterian Church. It was just as it was. And so, in regards to the DFW area, all of these females, biologically, at first, in 2009 and into 2010, they still had their feelings that they felt that I needed to know what their feelings were. I didn't give birth to them, but they felt that I had to know what their feelings were, because they had feelings that I should feel what they feel, and I didn't care. It meant nothing. So then, in regards to Uniform Fetish Bowl in 2010, well, I had contacted Temple of Flesh, Steve and Krista, in regards to being capable to be involved as to that event. And so I created my overall outfits. I created my makeup design. I created the dance as far as the whole thing was concerned. And that was it. I was the opening. And so I since that, before my head injury, I hadn't performed since waking up from my coma. And even still, all of the stuff from before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 when I was in basic training, well, that was, little plays or whatever whatever aspects in comparison. So went on stage, I found a big band version of the Star Spangled Banner by Denver Mile High Club, and I got it through my iPod and did that for that particular performance. Afterwards, that was it. Nobody said that there was anything else that needed to be done, and so I just got off the stage real quick and walked by some of the other people. And so I think it was the Glory Hole girls who were next in line. And so I had stood and watched as they had went on, and it was, wow, they did a lot of work, and it was really good. And so I had complimented them, and in response it was, we know. Okay, all right, well, cool, whatever. Fine. Are you, so this is now 2022. Oh, were you being twat ho bitches? Were you being insulting in that point in time when you did it that way? Because if that's the case, It just took me from 2009 or 2010 to now to realize that I don't even know what that was. So if it was, being like, I know how people are from New Jersey. Oh, okay. Cool. Um, cool. 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 All right. Um, so you're welcome for your right to have an attitude. Congratulations. Cool. if that was if that was the I know how people are from New Jersey. Okay. Well, it's just 2010 to now in 2022. I don't know what they feel. So fast forward in that same year, and I had asked about performing regarding belly dancing, and there's this whole thing in regards of I had an idea for two different outfits and how I was going to do it and stuff like that. But of course, having to run it by and stuff like that. And they knew someone named Dusty Dawn, who they had this whole thing. It was all right, fine. Well, it'll work. I can get this in line as far as and so they had asked me, as far as Glory Hole Girls, to contact Dusty Dawn and whatever song and, work on it. And she didn't want to work on it. She said she could do it as soon as she got there. She had all sorts of classes and training, and she had all this background stuff, and she knew how to do it. Oh, okay, very fine. You want to, I mean, like, and I even asked, do you want to, like, look up the song? Do you want to, and she said for me to pick out the song because I was going to have the two different outfits. Okay. Uh, I think you should really, and she just didn't have any, in her opinion, as far as she didn't have any need. Okay, fine. So I had created what outfits and the dances for both. And the first one was the lesser of the two regarding the movements. And the second one was the larger of the two. I even had ISIS wings as far as that was concerned. And so I actually had no idea what her dance was because I had to run from the stage all the way to the changing area, which was on the other side of the watching area, which was a little bit further down, as for anybody who was there in 2010. And then I had to go and change really, really, really quickly from the one outfit to the other outfit and arrange the ISIS wings. So anybody who has ever used ISIS wings, you know how difficult at times that can be to make sure that they fit just perfectly. And so then I had to run all the way back. And I got there just in time and, went and got on stage and did the second dance. And I had been informed that the stage was going to look a certain way, and it was nothing like what I was informed that the stage would look as. So I had to change everything about every part of my dance because of how that was. I was very well, that's fine. I did the best I could as far as that was concerned in those particular references. And so I don't know how it was received as far as I was concerned because then I had to go back and change and get into my gladiatrix outfit that I had for that evening. And so that was that. And so some people had whatever commentary later at other events, and they bitched about, the situation with Dusty Dawn. And it was, well, what does that have to do with me? She could have picked her music herself. She could have done whatever. She could have done this in comparison. So after that, it was just one of those. Well, I don't need to be a part of that if that's the way that's going to be. I will go and do other stuff instead because I don't have patience for that at all. And so when Dusty Dawn would try to do certain things at certain events, it was one of those, I don't have patience for that. I have enough going on in my real life that I don't need that sort of garbage. I already dealt with that stuff. I have enough that I'm dealing with. So then there was Exotic Easter as far as how that went. And that was in 2011. And back in Austin afterwards, and then DFW, people were, well, why didn't you whatever as far as the different situations? And I explained, I had posted the poster picture, and they said that they thought that it was just an advertisement. They didn't realize it was me. And that if they had known it was me, they would have attended. And it was one of those, but my name, okay, fine. I don't understand the situations regarding that. That doesn't make sense at all. And so that's when I realized I really needed to kick up the warnings in reference to technology because I could see the decline in intellect. And so I made attempts here and there as far as I was concerned in all of these situations, and instead of discussions, it was just more and more and more whining and complaining, especially when it came to biological females. And it didn't make sense because it was just one of those, what is your problem as far as this is concerned? Well, I didn't know what my biological mother and my biological little sister were stirring up needlessly. And so then in Austin in the year 2011, I dealt with a phone call from my biological little sister who had complained because I had acknowledged her existence. Oh, well, I can change that from now on in 2022 in comparison to referring to my biological little sister. I'll just say, because there's the official YouTube video of mine, well, that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling. Okay, that's fine. That 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling, and from here on out, I can do that. That's okay. That's fine. If there was any needless stuff, because how dare I vote Republican? Because Republicans were who fought for women's rights first, by the way. Just as Republicans were the ones who fought to end slavery. Just for clarification. So that's fine. No. That 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan that, related to whatever, I had the nerve to vote Republican as far as that's concerned. No, that's fine. That's okay. Yes, how dare I? And then, how dare I find that MMJ works better for the after effects of my head injury in comparison to all of those prescriptions, which literally, headache medication literally said side effects may include headaches and migraines. Migraine medication literally had in the side effects, migraine medication may cause headaches and migraines. Let me do this arithmetic. That is not arithmetic. Let me do this math. Okay, so I went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. And I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain that took 8.5 years to dissipate out of the viewpoint of the MRI and CAT scans. I deal with headaches and migraines, headaches on a daily basis, migraines, well, back from 2000 to 2009, well, I should say 2000 through 2008, my migraines were a minimum of every 2 days. 2 to 3 days was the longest I could go without a migraine. 2009, my headaches and migraines started to lower, but then in 2010, after what occurred in reference to my daughter, well, then those particular factors of my pain that continued to go upward in comparison to reducing. And the only time that I found any pain relief was through MMJ, or medical marijuana. And my biological mother had problems with it, and at the same time tried to claim that she had not ever known anybody who smoked the marijuana in comparison. So at that same time, though, my biological mother was doing write-ups on prescriptions, and legally would not have actually had the right to do that if in any capacity in reference to me, because I'm the one and only sponsor. Sure, I'm medically retired from the Army and I didn't graduate basic training, but my blue ID card, because I'm medically retired from the Army, and so there wasn't ever permission for my I apologize, that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling. And since my biological mother said the 1950s Gremlin car she thought looked like a precursor to the Mustang, well, sure, I could refer to my biological mother as the Gremlin or the Pinto, whichever one. Okay, because she liked both of those cars. I don't know why, but okay. So the Pinto Gremlin and the 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling. It's kinder, when you think about it, is egg donor kinder or is Gremlin Pinto kinder? I have an opinion that the Gremlin Pinto would probably even be a smidgen more accurate. And so with the description of the 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling, you can go look up that prior official YouTube video of mine. Subscribe to my official YouTube channel. Go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, which is the same as www.ladydoryville.com. And so, that Gremlin Pinto and that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling did not like that I did not vote for 44. Or President of the United States of America 44, who I knew was going to become President of the United States of America, and that would be Barack Obama. Oh, okay, well, that's fine. I knew why he was going to become president, and so I informed people, you better be careful calling him the first black president, especially as Democrats. And so a bunch of these individuals, especially when it came to the technology warnings, as far as I was concerned, all of these, especially biological females, asked me how I could ever call them racists or bigots for telling me that they voted for Obama only because he's the first black president. Well, hold on, okay? I'm gonna channel the voice regarding one of my ex-sisters-in-law, okay? Or pretend, however you want to put it. Well, gee golly, gee whiz. Is you telling me that you don't know that calling the first black president is the black president through technology will be considered as racist, as well as any profession that you don't go and talk about your viewpoints? I mean, I know I didn't go and graduate college. I know I went from college with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. Yes, I did. And yes, I know I didn't graduate basic training. I know. Well, gee golly. Wow. So you done go to college? You done pay for your test to pay to apply to pay your semester fees, and you pay for your books, and you pay for your classes, and that semester fee is different from the fee for your yearly fees, and you don't think I'm stupid because I didn't graduate basic training. And you think I'm stupid because I had a head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000? But I done earned 26 doggone scuba diving certifications for under 10 grand. How much doggone that cost for that doggone college you go? Did you pay for that piece of paper too? Did you pay after? So let me understand some of you doggone smart college students from what you doggone tell me. You doggone tell me you gonna pay for your college. So how much? How much? How much? What's your college? So what is the fee for your test and what is the fee for your application? And then what is your fee for your, consultation? And what's your fee for your semesters? For how many semesters and how many classes and what are those fees? And then the books and then the dormitories. Doggone it, I doggone don't understand how you doggone don't see. I'm gonna use allowed to go to college. It's biological females. You call me stupid? Did you have to pay for your cop? Did you have to pay for your game too? Did you have to pay for that piece of paper? On top of all those doggone fees. Wow. But you think I doggone stupid? Because I didn't graduate basic training. Oh, doggone. Doggone. So I apologize, cutie patootie marine. Because he's in the video link for what inspired. And so though I don't apologize if that made him laugh. It's okay, but he did graduate basic training where, yeah. In comparison to me, all I did was, that's all I did. So if it was, in regards to the DFW area, a bunch of glory hole girl types as to those particular factors being all upset because, in comparison, so let's say, I'm just going to throw this out there, let's say Cutie Patootie Marine had actually went to college. Well, here, let's see, he already had been in the military, so he had the GI Bill. So at most, he had to pay 20% of the total fees while being paid to go to college, if he did, and then he got, whatever allowances additionally. Oh, and he doesn't have to pay finance fees for college because it's paid up front. So that 1986 Dodge Ram Caravan beige with wood paneling said that she was too good to go to college. As far as for her fees, those college fees, to be paid by going to the military and graduating basic training, where she'd get paid to go to basic training, and she'd get paid to go to AIT, and she'd get, the healthcare stuff too, and she, if she finished her, I think it's a 4-year contract minimum for college to be paid off, so she would have all of that completely taken care of, but she said she was too good to do that, as to her opinion. That 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling and that Pinto Gremlin told me that she thought that she could help the Army be smarter. So when I read, after learning about, I figured it out in certain references without reading the prescription aspects as to the side effects. So I had worked on that, and since I already had approval from Fort Sam Houston, and I had approval through Wilford Hall, and I had approval through civilian neurologists, And I had approval through TRICARE at the time in reference to MMJ stuff that I was working on because of me being the one and only sponsor. So any needless interference from that Gremlin Pinto and that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling and any of their associate whatever aspects, they would cause needless problems because of what I was working on and I did not need their assistance. And because of me being the one and only sponsor, legally they would not be allowed to anyway. And so I had permission from the time frame officially of 2001, and I got reapproved for my work in 2002 through each and every neurology appointment, neurosurgery appointment, despite not getting surgery as far as neurology is concerned, with each life skills appointment, with each bio something another appointment, or biofeedback appointment, each life skills appointment, as far as the medical staff, and the etc. Like I had a whole team. So in 1 year, that is about 25 to 50 different military doctor approved professionals that had sent the paperwork to whichever branches and divisions that had that. So college students would not be allowed to involve themselves. So when I had earned my 26 scuba diving certifications, I had informed the civilian recreational scuba divers as to what I had approval for. And so my approval is considered a grandmother or grandfather clause, and they were not ever allowed to involve themselves into any of my work officially by every standard. And so finding a silver lining and finding the silver lining, and as to those fact books, and then there's the situations regarding, you can go to my book section through my website, www.susanmealing.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com, as far as the Library of Congress, as to that situation because of the factors. So while my biological mother would, or I apologize, not that, the Gremlin Pinto and the 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling would not have been officially informed of that because it wasn't ever any of their business. Legally, they had no right to involve themselves with any of my work. And so they had not gotten my permission. And so if they, as to governmental aspects, tried to think that they had a right to something that they didn't have a right to, that's their fault, and they would have to be penalized for that. Same thing with any of their cohorts, as far as that's concerned. And so while some people might have whatever feelings, that doesn't matter to me at all. The reality is that I had approval before they did in 2001. That also goes to the factors regarding, and that includes my ex-in-laws. They don't have any rights either, as far as that's concerned. And so my appointments regarding Fort Sam Houston, mostly, as to Brooke Army Medical Center before it came San Antonio Medical Center, those particular situations from 2000, though, into specifically 2001, those appointments from, in reference to San Antonio Medical Center now, though, was Brooke Army Medical Center, would be approvals outside of Wilford Hall. So both branches, though, approvals from the time frame of October 2001, before the situations as to other things, through 2002 as to all of those appointments. So every 3 to 6 months, I had a reevaluation as far as at Fort Sam Houston, so the branch that I had signed up in the official capacity. And so before my that Gremlin Pinto and that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan had moved to the state of Texas, they did not have permission. in reference to my ex-in-laws, they did not have permission because of what I had already spoken with at Fort Sam Houston, because they all knew about my nightmare as to my vision. And so in those particular references, again, why I was put around in different areas at Fort Sam Houston, such as the Navy Marine Special Warfare Unit and ISR and etc., regarding within BAMC as well at different clinics to assist with those factors and give suggestions. Those particular situations are as they are. And so while that Gremlin Pinto and that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling and such cohort hypothetical associated aspects, including my ex-in-laws, did not have any legal authority or right to involve themselves with what I was working on at all, to this day, still don't, that MMJ factor as to the obvious capacities of. And so while they might have their feelings and or opinions, well, that's their feelings and their opinions that I didn't ask for and didn't care for. And so in reference to the link regarding the video that brought this forward, there is that MMJ situation, which the prescription medications that have the side effects regarding, so I have headaches and migraines, so when the side effects are headaches and migraines for a headache medication, you probably shouldn't use that. And if you have side effects of headaches and migraines regarding migraine medication, you probably shouldn't use that. And so when I figured out what was best for myself, nobody had any legal authority to involve themselves whatsoever, because I already had pre-approval in comparison to what those people may have thought. And so when I went from temporary retirement duty leave to medically retired, it was because of what I had approval for, being the one and only sponsor regarding myself, because I knew myself and know myself the best. And so in that particular reference of those factors of knowing what is needed for myself, I don't need somebody else thinking that they know better when they don't. I'm the one who's been working on myself in regards to the after effects of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And so with the large aspects as to the subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain that took 8.5 years to dissipate out from the MRI and CAT scan views, you can't involve yourself with my work because you're not allowed to. And so individuals, and I don't know specifically who have had head injuries and survived them, whether or not they had a coma or whatever length of, there are certain situations. And those particular factors as to the brain are different from one person to another. I had actually referred to in joke to a degree, in person, face-to-face in person, though also in writing in reference to finding a silver lining and finding the silver lining in my book section through my website, www.susanmealing.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com, that, when I was forming in my Kremlin Pinto uterus, the air or the oxygen that I ingested and the water as to the area, and then when I was growing up as a child, as to how that impacted my development. Common sense. So aside from, 5th grade, and don't pretend that Gremlin Pinto and that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling ever actually cared about me and my best interests, as far as that's concerned at all. So as far as that's concerned, in addition, well, there's the reality on that. Because no parent who would actually care about their child would ever do that. So similar, where I did the best I could for my son and my daughter, which one and only sponsor, not my dead ex-husband, not their biological father. Their biological father had no rights automatically because I'm the one and only sponsor. So while the portrayal, wishful aspects as to that Gremlin Pinto and 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling because of the wishful aspects as to basic training and college. Well, similarly, I'm the one who came up with the T genome research as well as the project of, in conjunction to the process as to how to go through and test each individual section in reference to cancer research. So, in comparison to what that Gremlin Pinto and 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling along with those cohorts of might wishfully think, no, 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 no. And so in regards of my modeling, I came up with all of my outfits. I paid for my outfits as far as there's maybe 0.00001 of my modeling pictures that were from somebody else's whatever compared to. So if there were those who didn't necessarily believe as to being capable as far as my capabilities to take care of stuff and just moving on, I guess it's a Taylor Swift song, because especially regarding the belly dancing, make up the moves as I go, as far as I was concerned, because of the stage situation, that's just the reality. So that's just something they need to accept, because some biological females are capable to accomplish certain things, and every biological female should actually be grateful if they are a legal citizen, whether in certain references to other people, whether or not they were born and raised in the United States of America, as I had been, and because of those rights as to, but you don't have the right to push yourself on anything that you're not invited to. And so in that hypothetical where certain people have thought whatever they've thought, especially in the what is supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle community, if you don't have certain permissions, you don't have certain permissions. And again, you wouldn't be allowed to do anything if it wasn't for the patriotism of the United States of America. So I warned these individuals in what's supposed to be considered the consenting adult lifestyle to be careful, because if they do too many things wrong, they're going to set off too many red flags. And if they set off too many red flags, then there's going to be a recalibration and a full reset as far as that's concerned, and all of their patterns of behavior will be put in lockstep. And they will not be allowed to be a part of certain things because of their choices. And so while I've had to clarify and verify and do all of these updates in regards of 2019 to 2020, 2021, and this year of 2022 regarding my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, through my website, www.susaneling.com, which is the same as www.ladydorybell.com, which includes the modern day book and my book section with the link to Amazon to purchase as far as that's concerned. It has been needed because of these factors in the culmination of. I did not want the repetition in regards of what I had grown up with, if I could prevent it, because of the amount of people I once knew. And so my that Gremlin Pinto and that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling had opinions, because I had informed a family member as to what that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling had not informed in the state of Texas of. I took that stand, so that way the capacity of actually having proper aspects of, because of that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling. And while that 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling did not see anything, she didn't ever lose anybody that way. That's her fault for not ever taking in consideration that our two childhood is exactly that, our two childhood, totally different. 4 years difference, and the amount of areas that I went to, the people that I knew in person, face to face in person, when if she did not acknowledge our cousin Jade, and or our cousin Catherine as to their actual ethnic background. This is why in 2008 I didn't understand as to how ignorant my 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling could actually be as far as that was concerned. And so if in the reference to Club Sapphire in Washington State as to individuals regarding that, well, I gave warnings. Because the reality is, so, while some people may have had whatever opinions they may have had, I also had a vision in regards to Club Sapphire. The interior, the work, and all that sort of stuff. I actually had a vision. I actually wrote about that. I had told some people about it on a phone call, also in person, face-to-face in person, as to seeing that. And so if the irony of ironies as to the Gremlin Pinto as to the 1986 Dodge Grand Caravan beige with wood paneling and or the references as to my first performance and the follow-ups as to regarding that and or my scuba diving. Well, what an irony of ironies 3 years later. Since what started in 2018 and this is 2022, I believe the term is crushing it. And so that's how that goes. And so while some people may have had their opinions, such as Model Mayhem, and their feelings in that capacity, well, I made attempts to explain what was going on, and in reference to what was being dealt with as to my daughter regarding McCoy Elementary School in Carrollton, Texas, as to Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District. And those models should have actually stepped forward correctly in comparison to stirring up needless drama. And same thing with the photographers because of that. And so while I asked for genuine assistance, because of course if you only have a small viewpoint and you don't actually know, well, that's your own ignorance. And even still, if I remember correctly, there was an individual, I think it was a photographer, who had the nerve to say, well, what happened to the $500,000? Well, why don't you take a look what it costs for a residential treatment facility for 6 months? And moves from one city to another to make sure to take care of both of my children, my son and my daughter, as equally as possible, as best as possible. And why don't you look at what that cost is for the time frame of 2009, starting in the end of November into December of 2009, through the year of the end of 2012. Why don't you see whether or not that adds up to $500,000 as to that life insurance policy? It probably is a little bit more. I didn't think that was really that difficult for that individual to figure out, but apparently that arithmetic might not have been something that individual paid attention to and or those model mayhem types. Because of those, moving is expensive with furniture. And housing and all that stuff, that's expensive. Same thing with healthcare and it's not something as simple as just a deductible. You have to pay more than a deductible for certain locations. And so, sure, the insurance pays a certain amount, but in the reference to who I call Cutie Patootie Marine, but his name is Johnny Joey Dinty, it's just a little Cutie Patootie Marine. Sure, he paid 20%, probably around, as to his college fees. After having been active duty, graduating basic training, and that sort of stuff. Well, there's the deductible. So think about this in college student ways. Take all of your college fees for a 4-year college. Include your test fee, include your application fee, include your consultation fee, include your retest fee, include your semester fee, your yearly fee to go full year, full time, all 4 semesters for 4 years. include your book fees, your dormitory fees, all of that, plus add together your all of the other fees as far as, add them all up together, it's probably about $500,000. So while certain individuals, whatever choices of, or whatever choices of, well, I had to do the best that I could for my son, my daughter, and I. And unlike college students, where you get the luxury of staying in a dormitory and or on campus where you don't have to do certain things unless you have pre-approval to live elsewhere, um, I had to move every which way. So while that aspect and those opinions are exactly that. So the reality of what's supposed to be considered patriotism is not just in one or two reasons. There's many more than that. And as much as to the advancement of science and technology, as well as constitutional rights and amendments for every gender, in every background, of every ethnicity, and that includes the sexuality. Well, then at that point, it is one of those, why would you be upset unless what it is that you're upset that you don't have anything left to fight for. That the majority of causes now require you to actually be responsible. And instead of temper tantrums needlessly, you actually have to do real work. Because unless you have the capability to verbalize correctly, what is it that you can do? So I have been appreciative of my constitutional rights. I've been proud to be an American, not in a prideful way though, thankful and grateful. And so that was why my first performance as to the swing or big band version of the Star Spangled Banner and my outfits and makeup and so on and so forth. I actually told Fort Sam Houston that I was going to do that in the year 2000, as far as my uniform. Told them exactly what I was going to do. I don't know whether or not they saw that way when I had explained it. However, it is as it is. So, happy 4th of July in the year 2022 or 2022. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Now, if in capacity there were military guys who were active duty and or National Guard and or reservist and or veterans that had a problem because of my choice. So what? I didn't graduate basic training. I actually earned. So what as far as my Medal of Honor art project? That's my Medal of Honor art project. It's a right that I have because I actually learned how to do it correctly. And any individual that would be the equivalent of the modern day Vietnam types, you know, because what did the individuals, like what was it, John Kerry or something like that, as far as certain individuals as to certain types? So, you know, don't blame the entire United States of America's population because of certain types. That's common sense. I didn't dodge anything. And I've had the respect in regards of acknowledging that I didn't graduate basic training. And sure, while both the Army and the Marines can be back and forth on that because the Army has their viewpoint, and yet look at the fact that it's now called Military City USA in comparison as to how many hypothetical aspects as to the reasons why to end stolen valor. So it is far more respectful for the fact that I made the choice. And while some Marines, conversely, might have certain problems because of, but still giving acknowledgement, not pretending. And so what is the problem either way? In that capacity, because realistically, it's still not stolen valor. I do not do that. It's a way to end stolen valor. So while some people might have whatever viewpoints in those capacities, whichever side, the reality is still the reality. And so, especially with females, as they are progressing forward in whichever branch or division of the armed forces of the United States of America, whether the Army or the Air Force or the Coast Guard or the Marine Corps or the Navy, well, in this time frame, and as anybody knows of how certain biological females can be, because hell hath no fury like a female scorn, or hell hath no fury like a mother scorn, as far as that's concerned, especially if it's wrongfully. So while I've been dealing with those types, so individuals regarding, because there was in Colorado a individual, it was a male, and he had his opinions regarding Vietnam. Well, I'm not one of those types. And in reference to, I have the right to still be patriotic. You should probably blame the civilian sector more so in regards of, and in regards to the active duty National Guard reservists as far as and or veterans. Well, here's that factor. What is considered bigoted and feminazi as to sexism? Because unlike some people, there have been plenty of females who have been in action and have accomplished a few things. So those types of males in that hypothetical that would think that it would be manly to do so, why would you ever think that would be manly? Let me clarify, let me understand this. Do you really think it would be manly to attack a female who is being patriotic to the United States of America? What level of lack of intelligence would you actually have to be? Especially. So in comparison to burning things and rioting, I've been peaceful and respectful. It almost seems similar to those certain types. So common sense instead. So yeah, sure, I landed at the bottom of the ocean after I landed at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico and handled a bunch of business. So what? You did what you did. What I did isn't what you did. Your MOS is your MOS, and my work is what my work is. So just accept that, because you don't want to be like a pogue, because you know how some pogues are. But then again, you wonder why, especially with certain types, you wonder why certain pogues have issues with certain types of whatever forces. Because as far as those special forces types, there are certain branches, there are certain divisions, and just because you might be one type of special forces doesn't mean that there's not another faster, stronger, and etc. division. Keep that in mind. And there's a respect to that. So sure, while the commendations are whatever the commendations are, and I've done the best that I actually could, that does not show respect to your own uniform as far as any needless problems regarding any individual, especially males, especially when it comes to having signed the dotted line. You would be just the no different types. So just because of whatever other people chose to do, that's what they chose to do. Do not blame me for what other people chose to do. Keep that in mind. I don't care if we were born and raised in the same damn state. I don't care if we were in the same damn branch of the armed forces of the United States of America. My background is not your background. At all. And that's just the facts that others have needed to accept. So just let that go. Thanks. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that my flag is still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave. Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Because yes, it is my American flag. I went to the Vandenberg and I surfaced a lot. So it's mine. I just, yeah, because it's mine. Yeah. And anybody who has a problem with the American flag, well, you know, who cares about your feelings? So in regards of people who are like, are you like the civilian recreational scuba divers in regards to the year 2019? Who just, she just went and did, and so instead of actually celebrating with and all that stuff in comparison, and then that sort of, I'm not happy about the New Jersey sort of thing. Is that what that is? Is that what that is? Do you have an entitlement feeling? Do you have a feeling of entitlement? Is that what that is? Is that where the white privilege comes from, the college pieces of paper? You guys have a good day. Happy 4th of July. You know, in 2022. Happy 4th of July.